DEI creates a better workforce. I'll start by having everyone that agrees come up now. Okay, so I think the thing I want to specifically hit on it is what about DEI makes the workforce better? And I'll start with you.
I just believe diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is what DEI stands for, helps give a more rounded, well-rounded workplace situation. So people who look different, who sound different, who have different viewpoints, I think can contribute to the greater good. So if you have an echo chamber and you're trying to spitball ideas, they might all look alike. But if you have somebody who has a different perspective and they can throw something out, it can challenge your thinking a little bit. It's even just like this tonight. I work at home alone, so this is my way to kind of get some sort of diversity in perspective because it challenges my thinking. And I think anytime you're challenged is where you grow.
I would have to agree with that pretty much to a T, especially the diversity and perspective part. I feel like one key factor that a whole bunch of people don't actually think about when it comes to DEI. They think people are getting hired off of DEI just for the sole fact because they are different. That's not what it's there for. It's there to stop discrimination against those people. It's not to have them be hired because they are different. So that's, I want to say probably the biggest key point is that a whole bunch of people think someone is a DEI hire simply because they are different. However, I think when it comes to the perspective part, I also think that is a huge reason why we need DEI, because I can say from example of myself, I work with a lot of older people, and I would say they are quite religious, and some of them are even quite political. And so being able to functionally talk to them and functionally work with them is something that is needed.
I really agree with what Steph said about the various perspectives, various skill, all just coming together regardless and putting your brains together to accomplish a common goal or common task. But I think where a lot of people maybe have issue with this, or a common misconception of DEI, is that it's only race related, and that's not necessarily true. So DEI includes obviously race, gender, but also veteran status, right? We want our veterans in the workforce. Sometimes they have, really good skills and experience that a non-veteran wouldn't. So just by expanding that
Disability also.
Disability, sexuality, religion, like it's all included in that. I don't want to say welcoming these, people with different characteristics together, then that's what's going to make it great. But I think it's something that needs to be strongly considered outside of like the stereotypical DEI hire type of stuff, because I think we all have skill and it shouldn't be limited to a certain characteristic. I think workplaces, everybody has to work. So let's just make all places welcoming for all kinds of people.
Okay, I think that's a good time to bring up everyone that disagreed. I guess what I want to really know and pinpoint is what specifically, why doesn't DEI make a workplace better?
3 reasons. First off, while it's supposed to look for different groups, to get different voices, unfortunately, in practice, that's not how it actually ends up handling it, because how law is written and how it's interpreted are 2 different things. And corporations will always choose the laziest option, which is just hire this dude because his skin color is different 9 out of 10 times, because that's just easier to do.
Do you have statistics? Like, can you give me a source that says that's a fact?
I mean, it's pretty obvious.
That's
the
not a
skill,
fact to say it.
I mean,
It's pretty obvious.
Look, the skill drop, and not just the fact that there's been insiders who have actually stated this has happened, even high up people from different corporations. This has actually happened over a process of nearly a decade of different peoples, basically from different organizations. One was a CEO who didn't know he was being recorded, basically explaining
From which
the
company?
I think it was a CEO. I forgot what company. It was well, the other 2 points is that it goes against the majority group second, which I still think is important. How it works in practice and how it's supposed to work are two different things. And third off, we look all the same in here. I'm pretty sure most of us are religious. I mean, most of us here are Christians.
I'm not.
All three of you Christians.
That's not most of us.
Christian, you're not a Christian? Not Christian? Not Christian? Okay.
No, I'm an ex-Catholic, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand. I'm religious, I believe in a God. You believe in a God, you believe in a God. Okay, so more than half of us believe in a God here. The same peoples, but we're sharing different ideas. So this didn't require to bring in some different peoples of different groups for this conversation to be productive. So our argument starts to fall apart very rapidly just based on the room currently. All I have to say is companies are lazy, so they're just going to hire people because of what they look like or because of their gender, because it's easier. And second, that affects my group, so I that would obviously annoy me, and that
Your
also
group mean what?
A white cisgender male.
well, yeah, obviously it affects my group, and that delegitimizes the society and makes
The
them not want
society
to.
was made for you.
If they feel like it's against them, that's a difference. If it's not made for them, that's fine. But if it feels like it's actively against them, that's a completely different problem. And when you start to get to there, the society rapidly becomes delegitimized.
Don't you think
and you'll
it's
find
against you, though?
Yes. DEI practices I believe, are inherently against me and my people. So that's just me, though. Go ahead.
We'll go on to the next.
And this one I struggle with a little bit. I absolutely, to a certain extent, believe that DEI is very important, but I think that sometimes we cross the lines between what is DEI and what is protected veterans and what is, you can't, and I forget the name of the act, but you can't discriminate, against women, religion, whatever. I think that those lines get crossed really easy, and they're separate things. So yes, I believe DEI is important in the workplace. However, I don't believe that there should be grants given to companies because you hire so many women. I don't believe that you should pass over somebody that is absolutely qualified for a job for somebody that does fall in the diversity, equity, and inclusion category. I believe in that. I think having a diverse workplace is great. I work with many different people. I do work from home, but I think that we are equal, all of us, and we include everybody. It is important that a company do that, but I think to do it based off of, well, I identify as this, or I am this, or I am this, excluding the disabilities and the religion, women, whatever, it is important. It just shouldn't be the basis of determination of whether or not somebody's qualified for a job.
The idea of DEI is a good one, to have diverse opinions and backgrounds. But the problem arises when a company sets a quota to hire, let's say you have 90% employees are white and you want to make that 70%. So when you start looking for applicants that are black, you are going to pass over applicants that are white, looking for, if you have 20 white people apply and 5 black people, and you're looking to hire more black people than white, you are going to throw out that entire group of white people who could be just as qualified as the black people. But because of their
Can
skin.
I ask real quick where you're getting this quota thing? Because I'm unaware of companies that have quotas. Can you give me a company? Because I actually want to go home
Airliner companies
and
that quotas, correct?
research it.
Yes.
There are grants that companies can get.
And law. By the way, if
Okay,
like,
yeah, we
just by
but I
the
have no
demographics
policy
of a
for you.
we will look into it. I do
But-
want to let you finish.
So if you're looking to hire based off of race to increase the diversity of your workforce, that inherently lowers the qualifications needed for that position. That creates a employee base that is less based on merit and more based on skin color, which is not beneficial to any company for anything other than their race quota.
I know let everyone go before again, but yeah, I know you got something to contribute.
I possibly. I'm hopeful. So I'm going to approach this from a perspective of somebody who has built and sold multiple 8-figure businesses. Okay. Here's the purpose of business, and I'm not trying to sound condescending, to make money. Okay. Meritocracies make the most money. having a team based upon merit makes the most successful company. Now, discrimination is absolutely unacceptable. Shouldn't be tolerated. It can exist. There are laws in place to protect people against discrimination. Anybody sports fans in here? Anybody watch the NFL? I watch the NFL quite frequently. You know what there's a lot of running around the field? Black dudes. If there was a DEI policy in the NFL, would the product be diminished if 70% of the NFL was all of a sudden white because of a DEI requirement? The argument would be, yes, it would be diminished, because if the answer would be no, there would be a bunch of white guys running around on the field. Sports is the last meritocracy in this country. And I think that's why it's attractive to so many people and still so popular. When I was building teams, I interviewed a lot of people. I never went into an interview thinking, I need to hire 3 black people this week. Boy, I hope this woman is qualified because I got to have a woman. Oh boy, man, I hope the white guy's the best. None of it mattered. I wanted to win, and I wanted to create a work environment where other winners wanted to be there. And the people that I experienced in my 27 years in the marketplace didn't care as much as we might think in our society today about what the person in the cubicle next to them looked like, or didn't really care what their religious beliefs were. I could work with the atheist guy. I'm a devout Christian. I'm there to win. And so do I think DEI is productive? I don't. I think, again, it's one of those things on paper that looks really, really good, but merit is how people should be hired. That's what our society should be based upon. And I think that the people you do a disservice to are the really well-qualified people that fall into DEI, who never really are sure if they got that job because of DEI or because they're freaking rock stars.
I want to respond to you. What's your name?
Nina?
I actually kind of really liked a point that you were headed, but I'm not sure if maybe we're on the same side or if it went over. But I think you got to a really good point where you had said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had said there's policies that protect women or protect against women.
Well, like the American with Disabilities Act, and you can't discriminate against women, and which is separate from DEI. Now, it might not be for you, but if you're looking at it from our side, that's what we understand, right?
Sure. And the reason I bring this up is because that can actually apply to DEI. This piece of legislation called the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, where you could not be hired just because they were pregnant, right? Pregnancy, DEI. Some say it's a temporary disability. Disability is included in DEI. So
I disagree there.
So, and that's fine, but because it is a diverse, I would say, population among the people who may be working in that company, there are certain protections for stuff like that. And
they are, and they're protected under that different act. That's why I say I don't believe it's DEI, because it's protected under, it's a totally separate act, and I'm sorry, I just cannot think of the name of it. To me, there's a difference between DEI and the Americans with Disability Act, and you can't not hire because somebody.
I'm not talking about the ADA.
So so that's it. And so that's the thing. The pregnant woman does not, for me, I don't consider her protected under DEI. I consider her protected under the ADA.
Sure.
Should that happen ever? No. It is wrong. Should anybody ever, should they make that decision? No. Because bottom line for me, there shouldn't be a difference. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't be a difference between you and I, or you and I, or you and I, in an employer's eyes. What's on my resume? What have I accomplished? What have I done? I love DEI in my company. They do a great job. I enjoy working for my company because they do that. But that's where I struggle, right? Where is that line? And it is a struggle for me.
I think that there's some gray area here. So I don't see DEI as I have to hire. And that's why I asked Jase, is that correct? About the whole quota thing, because, and I want to look into that. Like when I said I like to learn and to grow, I don't ask it to be condescending. I'm like, tell me about that so I can go check myself. Because if two people walk in and they're equally qualified, and I have an all-white company and they're equally qualified and one looks this way and one looks this way, I probably would want to get to hire the one that looks a little different, whether it be based on sexuality, gender, religion, what have you, just to get some different lived experience in there. DEI also, to me, is not just about the hiring practices, it's about the training aspect when you're an employee. So when I was a teacher, for example, and we learned that American Indians don't necessarily, time is not as big a deal to them, so they might miss more school. Or the Hispanic culture is very like more family or oriented by culture, so if mom is sick and they have a restaurant they own that maybe the daughter would go, like it's learning about what the people you work with look like and their lived experience. It's training you to open your minds and hearts to that also, not just hiring practice. I think DEI is also training to understand, not to agree with, but to understand about that somebody who comes in who is very Christian might look or sound this way, or somebody who is in the queer community might look or sound this way and may use a different pronoun that is completely wild to you, but you don't have to agree with it, but maybe just understand that that's what makes them feel better if I use that. You know, it's just, so I think maybe
And that might be a misunderstanding that that some have.
Yeah.
Not your perception of it, but
I believe it completely delegitimizes company structure.
and I disagree with that. But like from a DEI right wing, I do think that there is a misunderstanding regarding DEI. What you're saying about DEI is my understanding. That's it. Yeah, let's get different people in here. So I do agree with you. I think that might be where the confusion is. So I did learn something.
I have one question. Do you feel differently about DEI as a hiring practice for Walmart as opposed to a pool of physicians or commercial airline pilots?
I don't see DEI as, I have to look into the quota part of it. I see DEI as an equalized playing field. So I give the example, my brother-in-law worked at a pharmaceutical company that was for women with ovarian cancer. And he was passed up for a promotion, and my sister-in-law's like, oh, because they had to hire the woman. I said, was there any women in leadership and was she qualified? And she said, well, yeah, she was qualified, but he's been there this long. And I said, if there's not a woman at the table in leadership for a drug that is about ovarian cancer, then I think a woman should have been hired. So I think of it as like, who's at the table and what's the company representing?
Yeah, so DEI, I mean, I'll go back 25 years. My dad he's a veteran. He was a veteran and got out of the military, retired, and went to work for the post office and was passed over for a promotion and was brought in an office and told by his direct supervisor, I'm very sorry, you should have got this promotion. I had to hire the black woman.
Right. I don't see it like that. And I do believe there are those.
And that was a DEI hire that was going on before DEI was probably the term. But the reason I brought up the doctors and the airline pilots is because I'm not the first person to invent that question, but it's relevant because when I'm traveling, I do a lot of traveling around the country. I want to look in the cockpit and I don't care what they look like. I don't care if the person's gay, if it's a woman, black, well, I don't care. I want to know it's the best freaking pilot that American Airlines can put in that cockpit. I also wouldn't look at a woman and think, oh, she's not I wouldn't think that.
I know, but like I said, that's exactly what I'm saying.